Hello, StripeCon. I'm going to do sort of a workshop. I had planned to maybe people to work with me, but it's going to be a big demo in showing how to set up your environment and how to get it deployed on the server. There will be, I've got 1.5 hours time for this whole thing, so there will be time for questions and remarks and etc. It's all a live demo, so let's see what happens. This is my sort of my outline for the workshop. It's shared. You can find it on the StripeCon website at my talk. Yeah. Place. It's there, so you can open it and maybe follow along, or maybe as some manual for later. What I'm planning to do is set up a new project, get it to Git, make a new server on UpCloud, get it to deploy to that server with Buddy, and then create a new page locally, get it, and then push it to Git and get it deployed. And maybe if there's time and there's any requests, I can maybe show you a bit about how to do a database copy from your local environment to the web server. And if I feel like it, I maybe will tell you something about Node.js, but well, nobody probably wants to hear anything about that. So let's start. I will use the Derk box. I bought the .com, so you can go to Derk box and then you'll see some projects. And in the Git, there are these projects. And today I'm going to use this one. I'm checking the. Is it all showing? Because that was one of my questions before. Is it too small, or should I make it bigger? Okay, then I'll have to switch some windows. I do have some. I have a smaller screen here. One moment. Okay, so I think, is this any better? Yeah, I don't understand the presentation mode. I'm not a PHP storm wizard. Sorry. And maybe also I'm not a Silverstripe wizard. I know how to host it. I know how to dig around the code, but the details of Silverstripe are not really my piece of cake. So okay, let's get back to the projects, the template projects. This is just a template for a whole new project for a Silverstripe. So what I'm going to do is create a new project. I'm going to call it TB Stripe 2020. And here it is. Now, what I do is just copy this one, paste it in here. And now we have a project, the whole project. When I go to my terminal, 2020, I do vagrant up. And we did have some vagrant talk yesterday with Werner. And what I could do is just shut off my face so it will be bigger a bit. So. Werner talked about this yesterday, and this one is mostly the same as this one. The only thing I'm going to change is make this Stripe 2020 and change the IP number to something I probably haven't used before. Save it, and then I can get it up and running. This is starting the vagrant box. And what I'm going to expect is that there will be a website running on here. In a bit. Font size in, how do I do that? Font. Better? Okay, what we'll see here is that the whole thing has started. And the first thing we need to do is, of course, run Composer. What I normally do is this, but yesterday we learned that there are better ways to do this. Okay, what we see here is the Composer, and we just copied it, and we can just do Composer install. This will get all the stuff from the Composer repository. In the meantime, we are going to need. I can talk through some stuff. I think Werner yesterday talked about most of the things about the box, so I'm not sure if I should repeat anything about it. One of the things I personally really like about the box is that there's the option to use this. So you can, and the SSL certificate, so you can use a real SSL certificate on your own computer locally for development, so you don't have any issues with that. And there are some use cases that you really need one. And the setting for that is in, I think it's in here. Yeah, there's redirect to SSL. SSL is, I think, always active. But if you set this one to true, and by default in the template, it's already there. And one of the things is that I've set the doc root to the public one, because Salesforce switched it to use this, and the old Salesforce it was all placed in a normal doc root, but there's an option for that, so you can have only this one exposed to the internet. Okay, it's all running, and we should have the default site up and running here right now. It will do the dev build like this. Well, that's what we want, and in theory, you can just start developing with this site right now. But this site needs to get uploaded, so we'll need to create a repository, and let's call it the same as this one here. And well, I think Make a PHP, create the repo. I'm not sure if I really wanted that. Let's get the key. And add it into, with this extra screen, something weird is happening. Import into a Git repo. Wait a minute. Yes, the whole thing should go into Git. And now we want to set a remote. And that's the one we just copied. And now the whole thing can just be pushed add all, add to yes. Yes, okay, let's just commit the whole thing, commit. That was to be expected because I had something in there. Let's remove this one first. Oh, this one. Probably have to remove it first again, or just be sure that it's the same one. And then just push it again. Yes, okay, now it went into Git. Here it all is. Next, we're going to need a server. And of course, I'm going to create it at UpCloud. And to create a whole new server, I will need, it's going to take a bit of time. But of course, I've got I've done some scripting. Normally, I use standardly. I start with the $10 one, and I fill in some information. Important one is that you use CentOS 7, and I'm going to set in my keys. And here's a field where you can put a script that's going to run on the server when it first boots up. I created the template, and it's doing a lot of stuff. This doesn't look like it, but what it's going to do, it's going to download some Puppet files, and it's going to run it. So it's going to set up the whole server from scratch with this script. And you can probably you can use this one also. I'm not really sure if it's exactly going to work on other things like DigitalOcean, but on UpCloud right now it works. So I'll place it in there. and I'll start deploying. And now we need to find it. Sorry for all the servers. It's so, and we'll see that it's being created right now. There's an IP number we're going to need in a bit. Okay, so the next step is going to be Buddy. We need this project needs to be placed in Buddy. I think the steps were being sort of explained with the unicorns talk. So you have your project, you've got Git, you've got your server, and somewhere in between there is you need a tool to deploy to get all your stuff from Git on the server, and Buddy is a great tool for that. So I'm going to create a new project, and it's a Git one, and I'll search for it, and here it is. Now it's getting all the information, and it's asking me to add a pipeline. Okay, is there any questions? Nope. And at the moment there is no pipeline. I've created I've made a YAML file to make this a lot easier for the demo. Normally I do create all the stuff in Buddy, all the actions, but you can also have all the actions defined in your project, so you can it's contained in your project, and that's one of my philosophies about having these things to run, is that you really need to have everything about the project sort of in Git as far as you can, as far as possible. Okay, but at least we have this one up and running. This server has been deploying for a while. I'll copy this IP address, and I will log into to that server. If anybody saw what I did when I created the server, I added my SSH keys, and that's the reason why I can log in on the server right now without a password. We're going to check how far it's progressing, and it's still installing. We can have something to show the output of the script. At this moment, it's downloading the Puppet files, so this can all run in the background. Right now, we just have to wait a bit. Any questions or things I need to clarify, or I just went over too fast? I'm not sure if I see the questions. Do I see the questions? Or there's just no questions. Okay. What I can show maybe is, well, on this one, like, okay, I do get some phone calls here. The links to the repos, oh yeah, maybe I have the document here, and of course, for something like this, you prepare a lot. Maybe go through it. This was the introduction, and what you, of course, need, you will need to follow this if you're going to go through this workshop on your own. You probably will need some stuff. You need, of course, you need an account. You need an UpCloud account. There are some promotions because they're sponsors this year again. And these are the repositories I just use. This is the this is for the templates. and this one is for creating the whole server. And if we're looking here, this is the end of the installation of the server. So right now, we've got some stuff running. We've got a web server, we've got PHP running, and there's a MySQL. So now we should be able to go to this IP address and see that there's nothing there, which is to be expected because we haven't deployed yet. So one of the things what we now need to do is get the whole thing in Buddy to be deployed. And what we have for that is a Buddy.yaml. It's not active right now because there's an underscore example in there. If I rename it to this and I commit the thing, what should happen is that Buddy picks it up. And what we see right now is there's a deploy running right now. And I'll go through all the steps that's in all the actions that are defined in this one in a bit. But these are the steps that are going to run on Buddy right now. The first one is to prepare the Buddy environment. Buddy will set a lot of environment variables that are going to need and you can use in your scripting. And the first one is to run Composer and get all the dependencies in Buddy. I don't think, in my opinion, you shouldn't run Composer on the server, especially if you have something like this if you have something like Buddy. And also try not to use any compiler on the server or have it installed, because that is a major security risk. And Buddy makes it possible to have all that stuff done before you're going to deploy. And so that only the stuff that needs to be on the server is on the server. Okay, there's an error which I was expecting because in this file, what I'm doing here, I'm using some variables here. There's an SSH host. Oh, I haven't even placed that IP in there, so that's probably good. So I replaced the IP address, and there is the port and the default user. The default user has been created by the whole Puppet run, but we also need to set a Buddy, the SSH key in Buddy on the server. That Buddy is going to use to connect to your server. So you can get that one from here. This is a one-time task, and I should be able to log in on the server here. Yeah. Now I'm going to paste it in the authorized keys. So it's authorized right now, and they say you also should change model, which is you really should do. And with this, it should work, except that I haven't committed the updated Buddy file yet. Okay, it's committed, and now the magic should happen again. Yes, it starts again. And we'll see that it's going to run Composer again. It's really fast because it saved the previous step. Now it's going to log in to the server, and rsync everything we got in there to the directory. I recommend to use rsync because it's way faster than anything like FTP or SFTP. And you'll see that it's doing some stuff here. I'll go through them. And now it's done. So what we're going to expect now is that if I do refresh, we get this site running here. Ta-da, now it's here. No HTTPS because, well, we need the domain name, and this is, I'm not going to do that right now. So now the big one is, can we add something? So I can show this is really going to from my development to the server. What's the easiest way? Probably go to admin. That's in here. It's safe locally. I think I'm going to need to show the database deployment. Okay, we're going to publish it. It's the date, and now we should see it here. Of course, nothing has changed in the project itself, but there is a database, and we probably want to have this database running in on the server, or let's just say this database needs to go to the server. And I've added a magic task, which is disabled right now. And I'm going to enable it. And this is some scripting, because sometimes this is just needed for to get the details with deployment. And what this is going to do is search for a file in a directory, and I think the directory should be, yes, it's here. So I'll create for now this directory. There's a directory, and we're going to use the trick of creating a database dump from here. I'm going to activate it, change the file, and there should be a file in here. Show and on. Yeah, it's here. Not sure why it's not showing. Okay, there it is. And now I'm going to move it to there. Add it into the project. And commit it again. Add database. And of course, this will trigger Buddy again. But there's a trick, and here, what you'll see, there's a new step which wasn't there the last time, which is load database. But this one, it's a magic one. This only runs when an environment variable has been set during deployment. You just saw it skipped this one. So if we just check out how the pipeline, how the action is defined, there's a condition on this one, and it's only run if new database is set to true. And you can, with Buddy, you can set some variables while committing. So let's change. Let's just add an enter and do a commit. Wait a minute. I had some documentation about it because I was going to forget it. Here it is. Commit. Deploy database. And it's running again, and now it should not skip this step. Well, that's disappointing. Why did it do that? What did I miss? This is not needed anymore. Now, file. Push. Okay, now it's got a variable, and we should have it here. And now it's going to load the database. And all that just to have one extra line. Well, and there it is. So this way you have deployed the database with your project. Not sure if this is really the way you should do it, but it's a method. And of course, this can be also used with the SSPAC, of course, with the database and the assets. But be sure it's going to overwrite some. It's going to overwrite the files. I also have some guards in the buddy configuration to make sure that when it's going to run the database, or it's going to load the database, that it's not going to reload the database if it has done that the previous time. So before loading, I'll do in this script, I'm doing an MD5 sum of the file and just do some checks. So the next time I'm going to commit, even with the changed file or with the variable in the commit, it's not going to reload it right now. I think now is a good time to just go through all the actions and just talk a bit what is going on. There are a few steps for making a project deploy onto a server, and that probably everybody sort of knows the first or understands the first few steps, like the composer, and there's Webpack. I haven't enabled it right now, but you could enable it. There's Rsync, and then there are some extras. And the extras here are because this site is being deployed as a zero downtime deployment. And what that means is that it starts to deploy all the files into a directory. and until everything is ready, it's not going to influence the running website right now. Maybe it's easier to just show you how that works on the server. This is the structure on the server, and what you see here, this is the directory where all the stuff is residing. And this is docroot is a symlink to current public, and docroot is the directory or the place where the web server is looking for all the stuff it needs to show the website. So at this point we're looking at the docroot directory, but you see it's a symlink to current public. And if we look in the current directory, we'll see the whole project we just deployed with the filled-in vendor and all the other stuff. But if you look carefully, you'll also see that current is also a symlink, and that points to releases. And here are two releases. There's two releases active right now. The current one active is this one, but this was the previous one. And what is happening during deployment. And we'll go back to here. Here, what we see, what it's doing first is set up the whole environment and check if the environment is ready to make the deployment. Because we are every time you're creating a full new directory for the deployment, that would mean that the assets and logs and other stuff are going to move out of the directory we're deploying right now. So we want to save those directories. So it's going to, and therefore you need you need to have those directories external from where you deploy. So what it's doing, it checks is there a directory asset. If not, then create it. Same thing for the lost directory, and same thing for the releases directory. And then it's going to do its magic. It's the rsync step. The rsync step is copying everything in this directory, and we are on the server with this SSH script that is running. It's going to rsync it again, but now we're using the revision variable from buddy. So that's this directory. The next step is go into that directory and check if there's an assets directory, and if it's there, just remove it, because with server deployments we do not, or with something we're going to deploy, this is not something we want there. We remove it, and the next step is we're linking it from the one we just created here. And the next step is to have a working .env file. I'm not sure if anybody saw it before, but I do have the .env files in my Git, and that's not recommended normally. But I have I've created a script, and it's which makes that a lot easier, or it makes it possible to do so. And what it's doing, it's picking up, it's using this file, that .env.prod, and renames it to .env, and it's replacing some variables. So maybe we should look into that file right now. And this is what's in the file in the Git and on server, and you see some magic going on here. These are the variables, and these are being replaced with this script. And now the big question is, where are those variables coming from? On all the servers I normally deploy for my clients, when the site has a database, I create a file. And that's also happened with this one. And if I go to this directory on the server, there's a private directory and there's a databases ini file. This contains all the information you need to connect to the database. And with this, and this information is being used by this script to create these variables, and these variables are being replaced. If we look at into a run action, you'll see what happened here. Here you see all the output of what happened with during deployment. You see that it's checking all the stuff, and here it runs it. And here you see that it replaced all those variables with variables we already got. So let's check it. Site current, and at the moment this .env has been filled, and this is the same one as this one, and it's not this one, because here all the thing is default site and etc. and admin user is admin. Here you see that that line is being commented, and that's the one from here. So those are replaced, and with that you can have your .env file also in your project, except that the values aren't in there. But I think that helps a lot with the ease of deployment and copy pasting a project or moving from one project to the next one. Also, and the really nice thing about this script is that you can, for each project, you can add variables in Buddy. These are variables that are created from the Git, but you can also create a variable here, like I don't know, some var, some value, and let's create it. But you could use this, for example, for having a secret key, like I don't know, your Google API key, and you should be able to have it encrypted, so you'll never see it. And this way, you can have it. You can have your key or these kinds of key placed in Buddy, and you can use them. And with this, we should be able to have the Google key in here. And this way you can have a sort of a working and easier to edit, and you have easier control, and your developers have easier control over these files compared to having to log in and place the file somewhere, or all kinds of fixes for this whole issue. Let's deploy it again. Google E, and we should see it run again. Let's go through all the other actions. Okay, we had this step. This is just setting up the project in its own directory. The next step is the load database. It's doing all kinds of stuff, and this is just something I created for this presentation. But this shows you how you can, if you have some bash capabilities. I don't know if you should be proud of that, but it helps a lot with all these kinds of situations to do some magic on the servers. The next step is just do the deployment, or the next step in the deployments, which is remove the cache, and you'll see that it's running in the directory of the new deployment. Of course, there won't be a sales stripe cache because we haven't got that one in the project. But if just remove it and create it so that it's we're going to use it, and after that we're going to remove the temp file, the temp directory from before. And at this moment we're going to run the dev build. And this is also the step that the database could be changed. And the next step, if that's okay, we're going to the next step. And first thing is it's changing the current directory to the one we have been working on until now. This is also a check if there's a current directory and it's not a link. Or it's not or it's a file. It checks if it's not a link but it is something else. It's just a check. Yeah, it's also good. It's good just to do some checking even in Bash. Next step is to just link the new directory to current. We're going to link the public directory in the current to doc-root, and this is the opcache reset, which is needed if you do deployments like this. PHP FPM doesn't really like that files or the opcache doesn't really understand that files that were there have just been changed. And this is a fix to do that. And this is a script that helps you to call or run some functions of PHP functions in the context of your PHP FPM running for your web server. Also, sort of a script that I normally distribute with the servers. And the next step is clean up your the old releases, and this means I'm going to keep 3 of them. And one of the reasons for the 0 downtime deployment is that in theory it should be easy to go back to an old release if something went horribly wrong. It's not implemented in this one, but there you could have a step that if something goes horribly wrong, that you add some failure steps, and you could have some, for example, if you just before the dev build here, you make a database backup if you really want to, and if something goes wrong after that step, then you can sort of fix it automatically here and go back to the previous release and send a message back to you from something went wrong. Those are the advanced steps to do. But with that, I think I went through most of it. Let's check. Are there any questions? Is anybody still listening? Nobody listening? Okay, you're still there. Okay, no questions. Is it that clear, or it's just such a jumble of information? I'll go through what I was planning on telling about. Let's start. Okay, what we done? We've got the projects. We've got Vagrant. With all the Vagrant talk, I skipped those parts. I talked about the version. Well, I think it's one of the nice features of this box. So you can work with you can switch it, and I haven't even tried it yet. Does Sailstripe 7? Does Sailstripe 4 even run on PHP 8 yet? Who knows? Let's check. We need the configuration version. You use Buddy for rebuilding a static site, not deployment, but grabbing data and pass it to the static. Yeah, that's being done with the client of mine, and I think it's even running a cron. It's even running. I think it's running in a cron every night in Buddy, and logs in, and then just runs some tasks for the server. And I'm not sure if it's for static or just some updating of data. Are you sure? Well, you're right. Let's go. Commit to Git. Well, everybody knows about that now. Creating the server. Done that. Normally, yeah, how to create a server. We wait. And this is what's being created, and the database is ini. Yeah, there is a lot of magic in the Puppet configuration, and you do have access. You do have access to it, but be sure about what you're doing. This is a setup that will by default just work. And Buddy, explain. That's an interesting question. What kind of ongoing maintenance is needed? I think the main one is keep your server up to date. And for example, what I can do, I can log into that IP. Where's my account here? You normally should, for a server like this, you should run. This is probably all you should do, at least. And this will just update the whole server. And with something like this, Buddy is also, or the Puppet configuration is also interesting, because what Puppet normally does is keep the server in the state you have defined in your Puppet configuration. And with this update, it could be that something changes. But with that, I'm just going to do it. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'll break it, but Puppet will bring it back into the state that it's defined to be. So I could break a configuration file in a bit, and that should, with a Puppet call, I can show you, because with this, I have some scripts in here. There is a script here that just runs Puppet, and what it does is just you figure out some environment stuff, like the current directory where this files lives in, copying the configuration, and then it's running running Puppet. I'm not sure if this was the best idea to do a live server update. And with Git, what we did with installation, here is a directory, Puppet install. I'll try to make it a bit better. And here's a Puppet directory. And this is the configuration for this server on how to install this whole thing. So there are some variables here that maybe let you know or makes some sense. For example, you can switch from PHP to a different version of PHP, and we could try. And with this, it should download and install PHP 7.3 with this thing, just to make sure we broke something. And I think it's scripts run Puppet, and this should should create or fix the server, if, for example, after an update. But that's most of I think most of the maintenance you have to do. And just update the server and bring it back into line if something has been changed after the update. The default settings for this server, when you saw the scripts, is not to have any access into. Everything is closed off, so the only things open are HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH, and probably you should close SSH down, for example. But most of the security risk with a server like this is the application that runs on it and that gives access to it. So the server is probably as safe as Silverstrike. Because that's the main thing that's open to the internet, and I do not recommend to use this for a production server. You can use this for for a server just to have something to present to a client or for yourself. But if you really want to use something like this for production, I don't think you should do it. But on the other hand, this is probably nothing other, or it's nothing different compared to all the DigitalOcean manuals that tell you how to set up a server and miss a lot of the points you should do. So, but you could, but please don't. I don't want to be responsible for anything that happens with something like this on a production server. Let's get back to all the steps. Yeah, these are the steps we just went through. Get the code in Buddy, get the code, run all the do Composer, do Webpack if you need it, and the reason for Composer and Node.js running in Buddy, so you don't need to have maybe Node.js running on the server if you only build some assets. Or have any compiler needed on the server if you're going to do all the Node.js actions on the server. We went through the whole deployment of the site, deployment cache, and the zero downtime, and what happens with this. I haven't talked about the assets, but you could do maybe something like this with SSPack, and you could probably adapt what's happening with this Buddy YAML, and instead of using this file and all the MD5 stuff with the database file, only run SSPack when needed. But you will need to have your SSPack file somewhere in it. But I'm not sure if you really should do this. But I'm probably too easy with just logging into a server and do everything by hand. But for customers, what I mostly do is set up some extra pipelines and steps. For example, to copy some assets from production to the acceptation servers, or from production to test, just so that they can copy itself, or maybe the database to have that. In the background, you see that it installed PHP 7.7.3, and we broke it. But it's probably nothing we can fix with just a deployment. The doc root was broken, but we just have to run the project again. I'm not really sure if I should go on with this right now. I think I hit all the things I wanted to talk about. Any questions? This part is different in a virtual conference. I think everybody is at the bar drinking a beer. If so, please bring me one. Maybe I should show my face again. You're listening. Anything you want to know? Because I think I've had it all. I don't think I've told you about this. Upcloud and Buddy are sponsoring, and you could maybe see this talk as maybe a big promotion to those two, but those two just have a great product. Upcloud is just the fastest service I have seen still, and Buddy is just a great product. I just glanced over it, and it's every year we probably do something like this. It's me or Lars that talks about it, but there are so many options you can use. These are just a few parts of all the options. There's thanks. Did you mention that you will do all this for people to save them doing it for themselves? Of course, that's the whole point. Let's be honest. I never make it to this talk is. I'm not going to show you that's really easy. It looks like it's easy, but then when you try it yourself, there are some caveats where you will need me, or just ask me. If you really have some questions, people do know where to find me, and maybe I'll pick up the phone. But these are there's just so many options and actions to use in there. I only use a few normally. But you can create a beautiful or a very useful pipeline and setup for your project. I think yeah. I learned today that there are other Derks around. Somebody was talking to me on WhatsApp and thought he was a different. I was the older Derk. I was surprised. Well, Julian, save me from this awkwardness. Let's get.
You're doing fine. No worries.
Yeah, you're just waiting. What's he going to do right now? But this well, this is different from in a virtual conference.
It silence, is, right?
Part.
Because
it's weird.
No audience there.
No, there is some audience, but you don't have the interaction with them, and yeah, well, it's different. So
it is, but I think you did a great job.
Yeah, okay. Well, nice to hear.